Hey, it's Kayla, your favorite IBD girly, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about my social life post permanent ostomy surgery. You guys can't really see it in the camera and how I have it set up today, but I basically put a poll up on the community tab and I asked you guys, what did you guys want to hear about next? And I gave you a couple options and you guys wanted to talk about my social life. And I am more than open, more than ready. This is something that I feel more comfortable talking about than my mental health, honestly, because that's still a little bit of a rocky start. But at some point this year, I am going to put an update video because I think I am in a better place mentally than the video that's currently up on my YouTube account where I'm like crying in a chair. Before we get into the video, let's do our check-in. How are you doing? What are you listening to? What are you reading? What are you watching? Leave it in the comments. I always love recommendations. For me, what am I listening to right now? I've been listening to a lot of Role Model. The deluxe of his album that came out. I love Sally when the wine runs out, I think is the song. I've been listening to a lot of Amy Winehouse. Tate McRae's new project I really liked. So not a lot of new stuff, probably around the same realm as the video that I posted last week. I just finished watching the Oscars with my mom. I think it's very wrong that Wicked didn't win anything, and I'm very confused about Nora because from the response that I heard from it, I didn't know that we were going to be sweeping the Oscars, but I guess that's what we're doing. Still watching a lot of YouTube, and I'm watching a lot of CSI. I don't know if I mentioned that last week, but I'm watching so much CSI right now. Reading, I just posted my February reading wrap up on my TikTok. It's gonna go up on Instagram soon. It's a little bit too long to post as a short here, so maybe if I can edit it down or like speed it up a little bit, we'll see. I am reading the Let Them Theory. It's up there by Mel Robbins. I'm still reading When I Think of You, my media club book. And I'm also reading a book on Kindle right now that I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's a fantasy, one of those like funny fantasy. I think it's like The Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf. Some like long, ridiculous name, but I read a book by, the author is Kimberly Lemming, and I read the book. I read a book by her last month that was really hilarious. So I was like, why didn't I ease into this month with something a little bit less serious? But I will be picking books for my March TBR will be from like a physical book that I have over here or on my shelf. But yeah, thanks for checking in with me. And again, let me know what you guys are into right now because I love recommendations. I am much better at reading a book that someone tells me to read or someone tells me to check out before I am able to pick a book on my own, which I think says more about me than other people, but whatever. So let's get into the video. We're going to be talking about my social life post ostomy surgery. I want to like give a disclaimer for this video. I think there can be several different circumstances post ostomy surgery, like permanent ostomy surgery. For me in particular, leading up to my ostomy surgery was really like I was severely ill. I had emergency situations throughout the pre-ostomy process. So I was going through a J pouch before my ostomy surgery. So had issues with that and then finally decided to get an ostomy. So I haven't even had my permanent ostomy for a year yet. Because of that, I have not been on campus. I think my social life could be incredibly different if I was on a college campus, but I am not right now, even though I'm still enrolled full-time. I'm just remote right now. So any interaction that I have with students at my college, it's either friends I already had, like when I was able to spend time on campus for a few months, like in 2021, or just like, again, virtually through Zoom or whatnot. So That's the only disclaimer I have. If you are a college student and you're actively on campus and say you're going to take a couple months off or take a semester off and then you're going right back to school, you're going to have a completely different experience than I'm having. But we are going to break this video up into 2 parts specifically. Maybe we'll get into more as I'm editing, but the first part of this video is going to be about cultivating an IBD community. So people that also have inflammatory bowel disease and how I've been able to connect and have a network with them. And the second part is going to be about my social life with non-IBD peers, because I don't really fraternize with people outside of my peer group that don't have IBD. It's very, very weird. You guys will understand as I get into the video. My IBD community. So for me personally, I started documenting my IBD journey on TikTok and YouTube specifically, and a little bit of Instagram, like really heavily and consistently in 2022. So since then, I have been able to have a lot of like cyber IBD friends. So even sometimes at the lowest points where I was alone physically, like outside of my family, obviously they were always around, but alone physically, like not having a lot of friends that weren't related to me, I felt like I still always had people online, and that was one due to the IBD community that I was able to foster by sharing my story. But then also I am a fangirl. That's why I do a check-in with y'all. That's why you guys see this background. There's there's music posters all up here. There's books all down here. There's vinyls and CDs all around here. And I made content sometimes around the things or interacted with communities that of things that in content I genuinely enjoyed. So outside of the IBD community that I had online, I had communities of people that were into the same things that I was into. So that was very much online, and that was always around, especially if I was having an issue. I felt like I always had a way of reaching out to people that were going through what I was going through and kind of getting their perspective on things. So that has been amazing. Outside of, you may not be a social media person though, and that is completely fine. That's not your forte. There's always like forums and things like that. I'm not as active on, I'm a part of the forums, but I'm not as active on like the Reddits and things like that because that's just not my thing. I have notes on my iPad if you guys see me looking down at them. But outside of that, I got involved with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. They're always linked in my description if you guys want to know more about that. But I got heavily involved in the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation probably towards the end of 2022, 2023. And through that and joining the National Council of College Leaders, I was able to, that was the first time that I was ever around people my age with IBD in person when we got to go to the headquarters in 2023. And that was such an amazing experience because I think there's only so much understanding people that are, one, that don't have IBD, and two, aren't your age. I think now that I've had the experience of interacting with a lot of people like that are older than me with IBD and have families and jobs and are married and things like that, there is a big difference of growing up in this day and age having IBD versus their generation. And there is a divide there. So I'll put that out there. And that was the first time that I like felt seen in a different way, that I've been around. Like, I grew up, I talk about this a lot, but I grew up in like a suburban environment. So a lot of times when I was in school, I was the only black girl and sometimes the only girl and things like that. So there's a level of feeling culturally seen, right, that I get around my friends that I grew up with. But there was a level of being seen when it came to my illness that I had never experienced before in person. And that's been an amazing experience. Literally one of my best friends, you guys will probably have seen her in some of my vlogs. I talk about her a lot on TikTok, Sanbi. I met her through the foundation. We've only been friends for like a year or two now, but it feels like I've known her like my entire life. We talk every day. So being a part of local organizations. There's a lot of different like smaller nonprofits, but I want to say the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is one of the biggest nonprofits in America. I'm back, y'all. My camera died. Let me just make sure my mic is back on. Yeah. So my camera died. So I had to like record it and then come back. So I believe I was talking about community. I was talking about my work that I've done with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and I've also done some work with the Color of Gastrointestinal Illness I don't know if they're association, but they're also a nonprofit known as COGI. Again, their information is always linked in my description box too, but through that I had like a direct connection to an IBD community outside of social media and like things that I was just voluntarily doing on my own. If you are like joining the support groups that they have some online too. I co-facilitate one for teens, and I have that always linked in the bio too. But if you're not a person who is like social media forward and you are lonely, I do recommend connecting to nonprofits, and if you're having issues finding it, like, of course, again, the website is always linked, but if you talk to your gastro doctors, a lot of them are in network with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and they'll be able to point you in a direction of a support group or something like that. I just think that's a good way to do it if you don't, again, want to put all your business out on the internet, because let's be honest, I talk to a camera and like tell some of my most vulnerable thoughts to whoever can access my social media pages. So I understand that that's not everybody's cup of tea. So I highly recommend doing that if you're looking, again, to just if you're looking just to connect with more people with IBD, because again, I will get into it in the second part, but I do have friends that I've had for my entire life, but there is a level of understanding that I think is just great when you have people that also have IBD. Transitioning into the second part, we're going to get into just my peers that don't have IBD. I have not made any new friends since my diagnosis, and definitely since I started getting surgeries, that didn't have IBD. Again, referring to the disclaimer that I put at the beginning of the video, I do think this could have been a lot different if I was on a college campus, but right now I'm not. So a lot of the friends that I had pre-diagnosis, I no longer have. Like a lot of the newer friends that I made towards like my junior and my senior year of high school. And most of the new friends I made my sophomore year too, if I'm being completely honest. I only have one friend that I met my sophomore year, and we are still friends. Most of the friends that I have that don't have IBD are friends that I have had for a very, very long time. Just naming some, again, of my closest friends that don't have IBD. My longest friend, you guys, they're both in my Howard vlog if you want to go back and watch that. But one of those friends I met in 4th grade, the other person I met in 9th grade, and then the friend I just mentioned, I met my sophomore year. And I'm just thinking about people that I talk to on the regular. I do have like some casual friendships. Again, those are older, nothing new since I got diagnosed. But those 3 main people, we have a lot of skin in the game. So that's an area of my life, if I'm being completely honest, fills me with a lot of anxiety. I don't know what to expect from these relationships or these people when I'm going into friendships, and it's just very weird. I've never been a person to easily make friends, and not because of like anything other than I had to get out of my own head. And then by the time I got out of my own head, I was fine. Like when I finally like built up the courage to be like, hey, can I sit here? Or hey, do you like so and so? Like from then it became easy. One of my best friends that I talked about that I've met since 4th grade, I remember she was at the pencil sharpener in our 4th grade class, and I literally asked her, hey, do you want to eat lunch with me? And the thing is, I had noticed from the morning that she had an outfit that me and my sister both had, so I knew where she got it from, and I love that outfit so much. So automatically I was just like, oh my goodness, like I really want to talk to this person, because I was in a new class. I finally got put into like a gifted education program, so I didn't really know anybody. So in my head, I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, at lunch, I do not want to eat by myself. And then I was thinking about that already before I went to school. Like, those are the kind of things that I sit up and like think about. And so then when I saw her and I saw her outfit, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I just gotta ask, I gotta figure out a way to like ask her to connect. And as I got older, those thoughts just got worse and more paralyzing socially. The last, again, new friend that I made, that I'm still friends with to this day, it was a very like, I don't know if she remembers this, but it was just like a really awkward process of us becoming friends. Like, even when we were like hanging out at school one-on-one, we didn't get closer until she saw like a K-pop. I had like she had Jungkook from BTS on her phone lock screen, and I was like, oh my goodness. And so that became a bridge. So I think this kind of connects to what I was talking about earlier about connecting with like fandoms and communities of like other things, and like how I've been able to like have a social life when I'm not able to be in person due to my health. Like, I've, in a lot of my like friendships that happen later on down the road, like outside of like those really like young friendships, they formed because of like shared interests, not because I was just like hanging out and hey girl. Like, it came through like being in an environment that we were both doing something that we enjoyed. And I haven't had a lot of social interactions like in person with my peer group, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, in like the past 3 years. And this is like, I'm not including my peer group with IBD. I'm just saying non-IBD folks in person with them. I haven't had a lot of these social interactions. The most recent and probably one of the only experiences I can really think about, and like I was like, oh, like actively around people. I'm not counting shows that I'm at either, because I think a concert culture is like kind of weird, even though like I'm going to shows, like a lot of them are venues that I've been to before. Some people I may see again, we may follow each other on social media. I wouldn't really call them friendships or even like any kind of like no type of friendship dynamic, because like I feel like we meet in this area, we have a really good time together, but then outside of that we don't really interact. So I wouldn't really call that a friendship. But when I went to Howard Homecoming, again, there's a vlog up on my page about that, and I just remember, I'm pretty like I'm going to tell you guys this, and I don't know why I ever really stopped like acting, maybe because I got into the writing more, but I really feel like in this moment I put on like a mask so hard, because I was like, there is no way this is about to happen. We were standing on the yard where like all the concerts and stuff were happening at Howard, and I remember looking around, and if I was at home or like with probably like IBD people, I would have been completely fine. I probably would have took off my jacket. I probably would have been like, oh my goodness, like I love the way I incorporated my ostomy into this outfit, like the way it's peeking up. Like, I would have had so much confidence about it. But I was on Howard's yard, like the rappers and everything were performing. It was people like, we're on an HBCU campus. If you're like, you know, HBCU culture, Howard is like top tier. Everybody's in their nice outfits. You can see like the guys scouting the girls and the girls scouting the guys. That you can just feel that atmosphere. Like, it honestly felt like I was in one of those like old 90's movies where you're there on an HBCU campus, and I felt so other. Like, I wanted to like literally like rip my skin off. I did I felt like itchy all over. I felt like I was on the verge of some kind of like panic or anxiety attack, and I wanted to cry. And the only thing I kept telling myself is, you have makeup on. You didn't bring anything with you to fix your makeup. You cannot cry. You cannot cry. You cannot cry. So I remember just like talking to my friends that I was around Donnie and Jayla at the time. I remember talking to Donnie and Jayla, like trying to like distract myself. I remember like vlogging, trying to distract myself. And I remember texting my other friend, seeing like when she was gonna meet us, because she was still back at the house working, and I was just doing everything in my mind to like take my mind off of it, and it ended up like passing. Like I got through it, but to me that was like, I haven't had, and I talked to my therapist about this in the past. I was like, I could think I'm so far like mentally and like in acceptance with my ostomy and confident, and I think I am. Like, I know for a fact I'm in a better headspace and more prepared socially where I am now than I was in 2022. Like, I know that I can say that with my full chest. I say that with full like confidence in myself. But because of being sick and being home, and I wasn't like, when I prepared to go to school, like my senior year, the summer of my senior year, I didn't leave any open, like outside of my childhood friendships that I knew that I would probably have for a really long time. I didn't leave any open books. People that I met in high school after I got sick, when I got sick and I couldn't reach out anymore, those friendships, like they disappeared. They left. And then there was 2020, 2021 was a very pivotal year if you were Black in a suburban, more Republican environment. I'll just put it at that and let you guys fill in the blanks. So I didn't have any open books. So when I was home, I didn't have anybody to like mingle with. And I quickly learned that like making friends as an adult, if you're not like going to shows and doing things like this and like actively investing in friendships, I'm not a party person, so I'm not going to meet people that way. It's really, really hard to like have friendships that translate into like in-person things safely too. So going to Howard's homecoming last year was the first like experience I had like testing social skills and whatnot. And there was like times where like people like came up to me, but I was so like focused on like it felt like surviving in the moment and like, you know, like hyper aware that I wasn't even trying to like entertain anything either. So I think I'm not going to say I'm not ready, but I need more experiences. And one thing about it that was really good about being at Howard is that I was around people that like made me feel comfortable, and I knew they knew what was going on with me, and I feel accepted in those friendships and those relationships. So I wasn't just completely just like everywhere all at once. I was very grounded with the people that I was with. It was just more so outside of our bubble. I didn't know how to really handle or like deal with that. Or just process. And maybe I should say this, because this is what I tell people in my live too, like when I'm going live on YouTube, is that the only negative to my life with an ostomy is social perception or public perception. And that impacts you the most when you're trying to build a social life. And that's what I'll say, what is so different about being in your early 20s, late teens with an ostomy versus having lived your whole life, having had experiences and friendships and things like that, having had a career, honestly, where you're like already established in some point, and then having to have an ostomy. Like, you have a layer of foundation and support and network already. And sure, like there's going to be things that comes with that you have to work through, but you're not completely building with something like this too. Which is a different experience, dude. Like, it's completely different. And I just share that little story with you guys to like I think sometimes people, again, they see me online and they see everything that I'm doing. They see that I get to like travel all these places, and they see the photo shoots that I do, and they like, you can assume that I am a lot farther, you know, than I actually am. And one thing I pride myself in doing on all of my platforms is showing up as my most authentic self. If it's a someday that I'm celebrating, like for instance, it was either my last IBD week, I think it could have been World Ostomy Day. I was not feeling it. Like, I was feeling a lot of emotions around my ostomy, and I wanted to be honest about it. And I frankly, I was very honest in that caption. Sometimes I go back and I read stuff and I was like, why'd you have to say all of that? You're supposed to be empowering. But then I'm just like, how can I be empowering to anybody else if I'm not being honest with myself? Like any other questions, I think with a chronic illness, I didn't want to just sum this video, like answer this question in a short, like 3-minute video. I felt like, again, this is something that needed to be fleshed out. I needed to give it context. I needed to explain. And I think even speaking about friendships that I've had my entire life, some things do become difficult to like explain. And like, their early 20 experience is not the early 20 experience that I'm gonna have. Like, I don't want to go somewhere where we're walking around everywhere, because it takes me like nearly 2 times the amount of time to recover from travel as it does other people. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm not into any of, I'm not into like unnecessary, like I'm not into risky behaviors that have more negatives than positives. I'm not afraid to take risk. I do that like all the time, but I'm not into anything that doesn't really have any positives behind it. It doesn't benefit me to smoke. It doesn't benefit me to drink. So those type of things, like, so there will be things where you have to, you can't always assume that people know or assume that people understand everything. You gotta have relationships that you're willing to explain, but then also people that make you feel comfortable explaining, or people that straight out ask you. Like, I've had people ask me like, hey, is there stuff that you can't eat before we plan this restaurant, before we do this? Like, do I get that consideration more in my friendships with people that have IBD? Absolutely, because I think it's something, like, our world is inherent. I'm not going to go on this full rant, but I'm just going to say this and leave it. Our world is inherently ableist. And unless you, again, become a person who doesn't benefit from ableism, or becomes a person who is compassionate or empathetic and wants to dismantle these systems, it doesn't benefit you to dismantle them or benefit you to think twice before you plan things. So sometimes you got to be the person that introduces somebody to an idea. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. I don't think there's anything that I left out, but I'm pretty sure if I left anything out, you guys will let me know. I'm going to be answering more of you guys' questions. I think I'm going to like try to at least do like a community oriented video at least once a month. So I think this is going to be my video for March. I'm gonna probably have this up before my birthday. So my birthday is at the end of this month. We are on the road to 5K subscribers. If we get to 5K subscribers before my birthday at the end of this week, I'm gonna let you guys name my stoma with me. I already have the form up and ready to go. So as soon as we hit 5K, I'm sending it out, and you guys are gonna be able to do that with me. I've been telling you guys this. I've been telling the people on my live, like, let's do this. We got to 4K in under a month. Like, I set my mind on going live and posting more YouTube videos, and you guys were like, okay, she's feeding us, so we're gonna run it up. And I appreciate you guys so much for that. What else is going on? Take Steps is going on. I'm probably gonna make a longer video dedicated to it, but I have some really cool stuff that's like happening, and I'm so excited. I am the honored hero for Take Steps Virginia. It's happening on May 4th at Bird Park in Richmond, and I'm going to be saying a speech. I think I set a 5K like goal, and I've already got a couple of donations, but I haven't been talking about it much. So as I'm talking about it more, I hope that that becomes more successful. And I'm just endlessly thankful for this community and what you guys like allow me. It's because I have you guys, and because you guys listen to me and interact with my stuff, and we've got a little family that I'm able to have experiences and do things so cool. And I like to share that with you guys. So make sure you're being kind to yourself, listening to your body, drinking water. You're doing the best that you can, and you're going to keep going. I love you. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun YouTube internet things. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.